More people who were close to Angie are speaking out about what really happened to the music icon, and now Pastor Shirley Caesar is also coming clean about what Angie told her before the accident. But it seems that the more fans try to get to the bottom of this setup, the more the higher-ups are working behind the scenes to conceal evidence and make the situation even messier and more difficult to unravel, all because of what they stand to gain from keeping the truth hidden. Now, what exactly did Pastor Shirley Caesar reveal? And how does this new piece of evidence fit into the bigger picture? Let's get into it. After Shirley Caesar's heartfelt medley during Angie's funeral, she wasted no time taking to the internet to express her doubts about the circumstances surrounding her death, saying,
"It was such a shock that she would depart this life the way she did. I believe with all of my heart."
It's clear that Pastor Shirley Caesar was holding a lot back, likely to avoid offending the industry Angie worked under for years. And if you've been paying close attention, you'll notice that apart from Tyler Perry, a lot of celebrities have been awfully quiet during this time, as many are scared they could be next. Now, even though Shirley didn't openly spell it out, she made it clear that she wholeheartedly believed someone, or a group of people, was behind Angie's demise. And let's not forget, Angie herself had always hinted at just how wicked some people in the industry could be. Anywho, what Shirley couldn't say directly to the camera, she allegedly shared with those around her. In fact, a certain text message that's been making rounds on the internet, which was first sent to Tough News TV, reads, "The church people are talking. Word is out that Pastor Shirley Caesar said she doesn't believe that Angie died the way they said she did. She also said her intuition and discernment will not allow her to believe that lie." Of course, Pastor Shirley isn't the only one who feels this way, especially after everything Angie revealed before her passing about how the industry was taking advantage of her.
But God knows I've seen a plethora of other people that I've allowed to, generously work in my favor, who have found a way to try to take advantage of me, and of a level of naivety that we all have. Starting out early in the game. I started out very early.
For starters, Angie Stone's demise might just be the tipping point for the music industry. Fans are livid that yet another icon has been stolen from them in broad daylight, and many are demanding answers. This is a different time and generation, so best believe things like this aren't just going to slide. As y'all already know, ever since Angie was declared dead, countless stories have been flying around. But one version seems to stand out, the one that everyone, including an eyewitness named Courtney, agrees on. Angie was still alive after the Sprinter van crashed. And right now, the driver of the Sprinter van, Lethiel Carter, seems to be in some serious hot water. Recall that the driver of the 18-wheeler truck that hit Angie is reportedly on the run with his wife after suddenly resigning. Many believe both the truck driver and the Sprinter van driver were allegedly sent by some big industry names Angie had been calling out. Word on the street is that Angie Stone's music crew, who were with her in the van during their drive back to Atlanta, are now suing Lethiel Carter for her demise. And their reason is that if Lethiel Carter hadn't been reckless during the ride, the van wouldn't have skidded off the road, and the 18-wheeler truck would have never hit Angie Stone. But all of this still feels kinda sketchy, because where was all this energy 3 weeks ago when fans were demanding answers? And that's not even the only thing raising eyebrows. According to reports making rounds on the internet, Angie Stone's usual driver was suddenly replaced under suspicious circumstances by Lethiel Carter, who was allegedly drinking heavily before Angie and her crew took off from Alabama that night. But here's the thing, y'all. If some of the crew members are now saying they saw Carter drinking before the drive, then why didn't they warn Angie? And why did they even get on the van in the first place? At this point, it's starting to look like some of Angie's crew members might have been in on this whole situation, and none of them can be trusted. And let's be clear, questions have been swirling all over the internet about who exactly hired the driver and even the van. But so far, no one has been forthcoming with answers, which only proves that those who were in the Sprinter van with Angie are trying to hide something from the public. On top of that, the fact that they all rushed to sign an NDA barely 24 hours after Angie's passing says more than enough. But coming back to Lethiel Carter, at this point, a lot of people are starting to believe that he's just being used as the fall guy, kind of like how Conrad Murray was for Sony. As y'all already know, fans have been saying for years that Murray was just a scapegoat for some big industry players who were tied to Michael Jackson's estate and business dealings. including Sony's grip on his music catalog. And before Michael Jackson's passing, he didn't hold back when it came to calling out the music industry, especially Sony Music and its then chairman, Tommy Mottola. Jackson straight up accused Mottola of being evil and claimed the industry was built on exploiting and mistreating artists.
Record companies really, really do conspire against their artists. They steal, they cheat, they do whatever they can, especially the black artists. Sony, Tommy Mottola. Tommy Mottola is the president of the record division. He is a mean, he's a racist, and he's very, very, very devilish.
At the time, his statements made headlines everywhere, especially since he was in the middle of a heated dispute with Sony. And guess what? Not long after that whole fallout, Mottola stepped down as chairman and CEO of Sony Music in early 2003. Oh, and here's something interesting. Just a year later, in 2004, Sony Music merged with Bertelsmann Music Group to form Sony BMG. Fast forward 5 years, and Michael Jackson lost his life in one of the most shocking ways ever, with all the blame falling on Conrad Murray, the doctor who administered a fatal dose of propofol. But here's where it gets even sketchier. After serving just 4 years, Conrad was released early for good behavior. And honestly, with Angie's case now making headlines, if Lethal Carter ends up in jail, it wouldn't be surprising if history repeats itself all over again. And as y'all already know, a lot of these record labels actually profit more when their artists pass away, especially if they were big names. That's because of the death clause in their contracts. Michael Jackson's passing in 2009 is a prime example of this. Almost 16 years later, it's become crystal clear that he was worth way more to Sony after his death. And best believe, Sony made some major financial gains from his music catalog once he was gone. And that's not all. Word on the street is that Angie's entire catalog pulled in just 621,000 official US streams the week before her passing. But the moment news of her death broke, boom, her streams shot up to a massive 8.4 million in just 1 week. Now, if that doesn't prove how much more valuable artists become after they're gone, I don't know what does. And get this, the accident that allegedly took Angie's life wasn't the first time the industry allegedly tried to come for her. Back in 2018, Angie survived a suspicious car accident in Atlanta when an unidentified truck rear-ended her vehicle, leaving her with minor injuries. She later confided in friends that she believed it was intentional, but, surprise, no police investigation ever looked into that possibility. Then, in 2022, her home in Locust Grove, Georgia, was mysteriously broken into. The burglars took cash and even her master recordings, but no arrests were ever made. Angie herself hinted on social media that this was industry-related. The next time Angie found herself in danger was just back in November 2024, when she started digging into her finances, and the deeper she went, the more shocking things she uncovered. Turns out, UMG had been stealing from her, and once the industry realized she was catching on, their plots started getting darker. Before anyone knew it, just 2 days before her scheduled performance, Angie was rushed to the ICU for a mysterious blood infection.
I've been dealing with a lot the last month, a whole lot. And I'm just here to let you know I am so outdone with things that have been going on in and around me.
At this point, it was already clear to Angie that some people were really after her life and she was done being quiet about it. According to Angie, I had what was a bacterial blood infection that I had gotten when they stuck me with the needle. It went into my bloodstream and caused a staph infection of the blood. Angie later revealed that she passed out in the restroom as her oxygen levels dropped, leaving her unconscious, and in that moment, all she could do was call on Jesus. I was screaming for Jesus. All of a sudden, I began to praise God and call on his name because I knew biblically that if I was transitioning, I needed to be calling on Jesus. Although the infection cleared up after 2 weeks, Angie suspected it was a setup, just like how the industry had taken out so many other celebrities before her through pneumonia. And here's where it gets even wilder. The staph infection in her blood, which was caused by the poisonous injection, often causes pneumonia-like symptoms. Yeah, the same pneumonia that allegedly took out Kim Porter, Brittany Murphy, James Brown, and so many others. But just like in those cases, the investigations were closed up in the most suspicious way possible. And best believe, if that poisonous injection had actually taken Angie out, they would have shut down any further questioning just as quickly, just like they've been trying to do with Angie's car accident. But fans aren't letting up. Everyone on the block knows that something ain't adding up. and people are calling for Angie's children to sue UMG for everything they allegedly stole from Angie. But doing that could also endanger their lives too. At this point, the only lawsuit in the works seems to be against Lethal Carter, the driver of the Sprinter van. And multiple sources claim that he was drinking before the drive. And on top of that, he was warned multiple times about his reckless driving. But his excuse was he had to get to Baltimore quickly. Now, even though Lethal Carter wasn't the only one responsible for that tragic accident, a lot of people firmly believe that if he had been driving carefully that night, the 18-wheeler truck would have never had the opportunity to come in contact with Angie Stone. So now, with everything that's come to light, people are really starting to connect the dots. And get this, with the way all 8 passengers who were with Angie that night have stayed completely silent so far, apart from Sheila Murphy, it's clearer than ever that a lot of the people around Angie weren't really there because they cared about her or wanted to protect her. Instead, they were around for their own personal gain. And Angie herself made this clear in the viral video she posted back in December, where she said, "People that was supposed to do their due diligence didn't do their due diligence." Angie also spoke about being a living testimony, especially after everything the industry put her through. She wasn't scared of saying this.
If you only knew how much money they have taken from me, how much they have stolen from me, monies that I'm supposed to be, I should have been able to retire 20 years ago with the money I've made, supposedly. But there are key people that have been driving the ships. And what they've been doing is improperly representing me, improperly stealing from me, taking things in their own hand, changing and switching lanes because they knew I didn't know that part.
And even after Angie passed, some people were still trying to profit off her name until her family had to step in with the PSA. But the part that truly broke a lot of hearts was Angie's own words, when she said, "Even though they were taking care of themselves, they took very little care of me." And that's the thing. Angie spent most of her life taking care of everyone else. She raised her children, supported her granddaughter, and carried so much responsibility well into her 60s. That's exactly what Pastor Shirley was trying to say during Angie's funeral, when she mentioned that Angie had been lonely for a long time with no one truly looking out for her. And here's where things get even worse. Angie wasn't the only celebrity who went through this, but her case is especially tragic because even her own father, Bobby Williams, faced the same struggles in the industry.
Unfortunately, my dad passed away and he didn't get his money. Okay?
95?
The company got 95%. We were both signed to the same publishing company. And my publishing company said, okay.
According to Angie, she once transferred a 5% royalty to her father while he was still alive for a particular song, yet he never got paid a single cent before he died. And the most shocking part, both Angie and her father Bobby were signed to the same publishing company, UMG. Now, considering how Angie's father was also mistreated by the same industry and the same publisher, it's no surprise that Angie was determined to fight till the very end to break the cycle. But from the looks of it, this fight isn't over yet. But what do y'all think? Will suing the Sprinter van driver actually help Angie's case, or is the industry just using him as a scapegoat? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and until next time, make sure to smash that follow button so you never miss out on content like this.